It's 3:12 a.m. when the burner phone rings. You've been asleep for maybe 90 minutes. Your body knows before your mind does. The way the sound lands differently than an alarm, differently than anything ordinary. You pick up on the second ring. You don't say anything. That's the protocol. The voice on the other end says 3 words, just 3. Then the line goes dead. You sit up in the dark of your apartment in Almaty, Kazakhstan, and you feel the familiar thing, that cold compression in the chest that isn't quite fear and isn't quite purpose. You felt it before. Kabul, Minsk, twice in Tehran. But this is different. This is the one they've been building toward for 2 years. This is why they recruited you. This is why they trained you, funded you, buried your old identity under 6 layers of bureaucratic fiction. This is why you exist. You have 45 minutes to get to the secondary location. You don't rush. Rushing is amateur behavior. You move through your apartment the way you always move, checking sight lines from the windows, ensuring your go bag is where you left it, verifying the small piece of tape on the door hasn't been disturbed. It hasn't. Good. You pull on clothes that have no logos, no brand names, nothing memorable. You look like any foreigner who couldn't quite afford the nicer part of the city. That's the point. They call what you do asset integration. The official terminology is clinical and beautiful in the way only government language can be, scrubbed of anything human. What it means in practice is that you have been inserted into the inner administrative apparatus of a government that the United States considers, at this specific moment in history, an adversary. Not an enemy, not yet, an adversary. The word is chosen carefully. Enemies get bombed, adversaries get managed. You are part of the management. Your cover is solid. 18 months of building it. You are a trade consultant for a Swiss logistics firm, a firm that exists in reality, that has real clients, that produces real invoices. You have attended real meetings. You have shaken real hands. You have sat at real dinners with real bureaucrats and eaten food you didn't recognize and laughed at jokes you half understood and given nothing away. Not once. In 18 months, not a single slip. Tonight changes the geometry of what you're doing here.
The man waiting for you at the secondary location goes by the name Vasily. That's not his name. You go by the name Marcus. That's not your name either. You've worked together, in a loose sense, twice before, both times brief, both times clean. He's a contractor, not an officer. There's a difference, though most civilians don't understand it. Officers have legal cover. Contractors have plausible deniability and a clause in their agreement that essentially says, if this goes wrong, we don't know you. You are the contractor. Vasily spreads a single photograph on the table between you. No briefing document, no dossier, just a photograph and 2 sentences of verbal context, which he delivers flat, like he's reading a grocery list. The man in the photograph is Deputy Minister Rahimov. He is 47 years old, the 3rd most powerful figure in the Interior Ministry, and according to signals intelligence gathered over the past 11 days, he is preparing to authorize something that your handlers have decided cannot be authorized. The details of that something are above your operational level. You understand that. You accepted that when you signed on. There are layers above you, and in those layers, decisions are made by people who see the full picture. You see a corner of it, a specific, useful corner. Your job is not to stop Rahimov. Your job is to get close enough to him to confirm that what the signals intelligence has flagged is real, not a misread, not a provocation, not a test. Your job is to verify, to get within his orbit and use the access you've cultivated over 18 months to see something no satellite can see, something no intercepted communication can prove beyond institutional doubt. And then you transmit that confirmation. That's it. That's the whole mission. You look at the photograph. Rahimov has a wide face, the kind that photographs is trustworthy. You've met him once at a reception for a visiting trade delegation 4 months ago. He shook your hand firmly and talked for 8 minutes about the superiority of Central Asian apricots over Turkish ones. You laughed. You expressed genuine curiosity. You gave him nothing to remember except a polite, forgettable foreigner. That was investment. Tonight, it pays.
The access happens through a man named Tokayev, no relation to the president, which he finds mildly irritating and you have been careful never to bring up. Tokayev is a mid-level administrative official in the ministry, and he has been your primary point of cultivation for 11 months. He is not a source. He is not aware of what you are. He believes you are a well-connected trade consultant who has been helpful to him in small material ways. A referral here, a business contact there. Once a very well-timed introduction to someone in European financing who genuinely did want to invest in the region. That introduction cost your handlers $40,000 in facilitation fees. It opened every door you needed. You meet Tokayev at 9 a.m. at a cafe he has chosen, which means he feels safe. You order tea, he orders coffee. You talk about his son's university applications. He's been anxious about them for weeks. And you ask the right questions and listen with the quality of attention that most people never receive from anyone in their professional lives. This is not manipulation, or rather, it is manipulation, but it is also genuinely good listening. The line between them is something you stopped examining 18 months ago. 20 minutes in, you mention, carefully, briefly, as an aside, that you heard Rahimov might be attending the ministry's internal sector review later that week. You have a mutual connection in the delegation, and you've been meaning to reconnect. Would Tokayev know if there's any opportunity for a brief exchange? Something informal, of course. The ask takes 15 seconds. Tokayev thinks about it for 4, then nods. He can probably arrange a brief introduction at the pre-meeting reception. Nothing formal, just a reintroduction, since you've met before. You thank him warmly, you ask about his son again, you finish your tea. Outside the cafe, you feel the pressure system shift, something large moving closer. The reception is 3 days later, and you arrive 7 minutes after it begins. Not early. Early signals eagerness, not late. Late signals disorganization. 7 minutes is invisible. You've worn a suit that costs enough to be credible, but not enough to be memorable. You've rehearsed the conversation you're going to have with Rahimov in 6 different directions, depending on how he enters the exchange. You are prepared for all of them. What you are not prepared for is the woman standing to his left. She is introduced to you as an advisor to the minister, which ministry is left vague the way these things always are in rooms like this. She is watching the room the way you are watching the room. And in the 2 seconds where your eyes meet, you know with the bone-deep certainty of someone who has spent years developing this particular muscle that she is doing what you are doing. Not CIA. The posture is wrong. The patience is different. The tails are subtle, but they're there. Russian, possibly. FSB, possibly. Something newer, something without a publicly acknowledged name. It doesn't matter which. What matters is that she has made you in the same 2 seconds you have made her, and now you are both standing in a room with the same target, and neither of you can acknowledge that, and the entire reception has just become a game with no visible board. You turn toward Rahimov. Tokayev makes the introduction beautifully. Rahimov remembers you. The apricots, he says, laughing a little. You laugh back. You have exactly 9 minutes before the reception begins to close and people move toward the meeting rooms. 9 minutes to get close enough, stay long enough, hear enough. You ask a question about a trade corridor. Rahimov answers it with the practiced ease of a man who has given this answer a dozen times. You ask a follow-up that's specific enough to seem expert, but vague enough to invite elaboration. He elaborates. You listen. You are listening for one particular thing, a phrase, a reference, a name, something that will confirm or deny what the signals intelligence has suggested. At minute 6, he says it. Not the whole thing, a fragment, but a fragment that fits like a key into a lock you've been studying for 11 months, and you feel it click.
and you know, and you keep your face exactly where it is, and you say something agreeable about investment timelines, and you excuse yourself to get another drink, and you do not look at the woman to his left, and you walk to the corner of the room, and you are very, very still inside. You have what they sent you for.
48 hours later, the confirmation is transmitted through a channel so layered and indirect that its origin is essentially unverifiable. You don't transmit it yourself. That's not how it works at your level. You pass the information to a contact who passes it in fragments through 3 different vectors, and somewhere at the end of that chain, a report lands on a desk in a building near the Potomac River, and someone reads it, and something happens or doesn't happen, and you will never know which. That's the part they don't tell you when you start this work. They tell you about the access, the training, the cover building, the patience. They tell you that what you're doing matters, and it does. You believe that. You have to believe that. You've staked your entire constructed life on that belief. But they don't tell you about the silence on the other end. The confirmation that you've passed the information up and then nothing. No acknowledgement, no outcome, no feedback that what you heard in that room was real and consequential, or real and ultimately irrelevant. You sit in your apartment in Almaty and you wait. Vasily is already gone. He was here for 48 hours and now he doesn't exist again. You remain. That's what expendable means in this context. Not disposable exactly, more like deniable. You remain in place because you are still useful in place, and you will remain until you are not. And on that day, you will receive 3 words on a burner phone that tell you to extract, and you will leave within the hour, and your cover identity will quietly expire, and Marcus, the trade consultant, will cease to exist, and whatever your real name is will resurface somewhere far from here, attached to a small financial arrangement and the implicit understanding that the agreement has been honored. That is the contract. What the contract doesn't address is Rahimov's advisor, the woman, because 2 days after the reception, you see her again. Not at any ministry event, not at any place connected to your operational environment. At a market, buying fruit. She doesn't look at you. She is very specifically not looking at you, which is different from simply not seeing you. And on the fruit stand where she's been standing, she leaves behind a small folded piece of paper that she didn't arrive with. You walk past the stand 4 minutes later. You take the paper without slowing down. It contains a mobile number and a single character, a question mark. You sit with this for a long time. The question mark means, I know what you are. I know what you found. I want to know what you're going to do with it. Or it means something else entirely, an approach, a test, a trap so sophisticated it was staged specifically for someone exactly like you. There's no way to know without responding, and responding opens a door that nothing in your training, nothing in your operational protocols, and nothing in your 18 months in this city has prepared you for, because this isn't an asset to cultivate or an adversary to avoid. This is someone who operates in the same darkness you do, for different reasons, with different consequences, and who is extending something that might be a hand or might be a blade. You fold the paper and put it in your pocket. You don't transmit it, you don't discard it, you carry it. The phone doesn't ring that night, or the next. You move through your routines. You meet Tokayev for coffee. You attend 2 legitimate business meetings. You file real reports for the Swiss logistics firm. You are, on the surface, exactly what your cover says you are, but you are carrying a question mark. And somewhere in a building near the Potomac, someone has read a report and made a decision about what happens next in this city. And in that decision, you are a line item, a resource with a cost-benefit ratio that has been assessed, updated, and filed. You are the most expendable asset inside this government, which means you are still inside, which means they still need you. Which means for now, you stay. The burner phone sits on the nightstand, silent, waiting the way everything in this life waits, patiently, inevitably, for the moment when 3 words cut through the dark and everything changes again. You close your eyes. You don't sleep.